Hey everyone, I played Coral at Bushiroad Springfest and I got second place. So first off I play 4 Aurora Star Coral. This card on ride and on stride, you put a card into the soul, draw 2 cards, and your front row gains 5k for every 2 corals that you have into the soul. So she's a really good card, you should be playing 4, and she's the main grade 3 target. Next I have 1 Shangri-La Coral. I only run 1 because I never want to see her in hand, just in case I absolutely do need a G assist. I feel like she's only really good inside of the Nubatama matchup, and I kind of like having her to search up for Arcadia Star Coral, which will come in later, and she's also there just to bump up my stride ratios, my stride fodder ratios. Next I run 4 Shiny Star Coral. It's part of the ride chain, you're supposed to run 4 on hit. If you have the specific grade 1 in the soul, you get to bounce a back row, and her normal on his bounce a front row back to your hands. So she rewards you for rushing. It's pretty nice. Next I run for Spica. This is pretty standard inside the deck as well. She enables you to get many attacks off. And on attack, when she's boosted, you counterblast 1. You bounce a card, and then you call a card out, and it gains 3k. So usually what you do is you loop these abilities and you just keep attacking with her for more attacks. Next I run for Light Blue Heart. What's her name? Murtoa. This card is also really good. I try to bounce around the ratios. I found out 3 was really consistent. What she does is on ride or on place, you soul charge a coral and you draw 1, and then in soul you can soul blast her out and draw a card. So she's really good for consistency, and plussing 1 is never really a bad idea. Next, I only run 2 Charlotte. She's a promo. What she does is, when she attacks, if she hits, counterblast 1, bounce her back to your hand, you call a card from your hand back onto the field. She's not GB, so she's really strong. So setting up a lot of attacks with her early is really powerful, and once you go into strides, it's also really strong as well. Next, I run 4 Shiny Star Coral. She's another part of the ride chain. If you ride onto the grade 0, you check the top 7 for the grade 2 or grade 3 coral, and she also has an ability that if you ride a grade 2 that isn't part of the ride chain, you check the top 7 for the correct grade 2 and you get to ride her. So this is really good. Next I run 4 stride fodder. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You want to be able to stride, and this also works as pretty good rear guards as well. So. Next I run for Lyrica. She's really good because she adds corals to the soul. She's not GB. When she's placed, you get to search the top 5 cards of your deck for a grade 2 or lower coral, and if you do have one, you add it to your hand, and then you choose a card from your hand to put it into the soul. So usually what I do, I just shove a coral into the soul just because that's ultimately your goal. Another part is if she is in the soul, you can call her to rearguard circle by shoving in a grade 2 or higher into the soul, and she gets 2k and her on place ability. So she's a really strong card. Next I only run 3 Aqua PGs. I was running 4 at first, but I realized that 3 was really good because I almost never wanted to see her, and I only wanted to see her maybe once because I'd rather have more offensive pieces than to have her in hand. So that's why I'm only running 3. Next I have 4 Hanukkah. What she does is in the soul or in hand, you can ditch her, search the top 5 cards for a coral. You could either add that to hand or soul. So you have to run 4 of this inside of coral. Next I run 4 Choo Choo Roberta. Countercharging is really good, and she's a 4k, so I mostly use her for the countercharge engine. Next I run 4 Crook. This card is actually really broken. This won me a lot of games along with Spica. When this card is in harmony, after this card is boosted, you get to put it on the top of the deck, shuffle, bounce a card, and call a card out. So she just enables so many attacks, and I really recommend running 4 of these instead of running the 12 crit variant because she is really strong. Next I run 4 of the heal trigger that allows you to soul charge or counter charge if you have another one in the drop zone and you use it for a G guard. Pretty self-explanatory, just helps you out a little bit. And of course, since we're running a ride chain, I have the starter coral. Going on to the stride zone, I run 4 Frontier Star Coral. Honestly, I almost never got into these, but it's good to have 4 just in case you want to stride into this first. What she is her first ability is Counterblast 1, Soul Charge 1, and when you do that, you may bounce up to as many cards on the field back to your hand, and she gains 5k for each one. Then, if you have 2 face up, you may draw a card and call 2 cards. So she sets up for more attacks. She's really, really strong. I hardly ever really go into this, but sometimes there are pieces that I want to bounce back to hand, and I will use her just to bounce them back into hand. But I almost never really see her. Next, I have 3 Arcadia Star Coral. This is usually my first ride target, or my first stride target. So this is usually the stride I stride into first. What it does is an act ability. What you do is you unflip a card. Usually I flip up Frontier Star Coral, and then you get to bounce a card on your field back to your hand, and you get to search for any card in your deck, shove it into Soul, so you can set up for certain plays or bump up another Coral for another power bump. And after that, for as many Corals as you have in the Soul, you may select that many rear guards to gain 2k. So if you have 5 cards in the Soul, you can select 5 targets, 5 rear guards to give 2k. So this helps a lot because you have a lot of 9k rear guards and then it puts it at 11k. Plus the power that your Grade 3 Coral gives you is really strong. Next I run 2 Perfect Performance Ange. I never got to go into it, but I had it there just in case I went into the Chaos matchup. I run 2 specifically to counteract the 2 Deluge that they have. And unfortunately, I never got to go into it, but they're here just for insurance. And what she does is that she bounces circles, rear guard circles, so it gets around lock. So that means it's really, really strong. And she can also get a quad drive if you bounce a certain amount, which I believe is turned as 5 or more. So it's really good. I run 1 Grade 4 Teruya. I never went into her either, but she gets a recent play and sometimes she helps out. I've gone into her with playtesting and I decided that it was a really good card to have. Of course, you run the 1 Megiddo, pretty self-explanatory. Counterblast 2, you get to use your hand and drop zone to call up cards, then they get 5k. So it's a really good finisher if you did come down to it. But usually I never got past my first stride, which was usually Aurora Star Coral, so I don't think you ever really need to use it, but it's safe to have. Next I run 2 High Society Citron for the Nubataba matchup, and it also works well with the one of the rares that allow you to soul charge a Coral and draw, because then this is on call. So it allows you to kill off a Nubatama dominated unit of yours and call on top of the other one and guard the first attack. So it's pretty good. It also gives you 10k shield, so it's a 30k shield on its own, so I like it. Okay. Next I run 1 Sandy. At GB1 you may use her. What she does is that she flips a G-Guardian and she gets 5k for every 2 cards that you have in the hand, and then you may counterblast 1 and she gains 5k more. So she can be pretty beefy inside this deck and she's really useful. Next I run 1 Luxury Wave Ellie. What she does is she gains 10k for every PG that you have inside of the drop zone, so she can get really big guard. And then at GB2, when she's done with guarding, you can Soul Blast 1 and you can put her back face down into the G zone. So she's also really useful. I like to abuse her a lot. And then for my last G guard, I use Hand in Hand Leona. What she does is you can bounce a card on your field and you call a card out from your hand to the Guardian zone, and then that unit gains another 5k power. So she's also really nice too. And that was my Coral deck profile, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys later.